Injunction on the processes by the Electoral Commission ahead of the 2016 elections. Former national youth organizer of the People's National Convention, Abu Ramadan, filed the writ pushing for a review of the electoral roll. He insists the register is bloated and not fit for purpose. After delivering their ruling, the judges charged the EC to, quote, engage all stakeholders who have raised concerns over the register's credibility. Again, the 9-member panel is asking the election regulatory body to make some compromises on the matter to ensure peaceful elections. Lawyer for Abu Ramadan, Nana Asante to address journalists after court proceedings today.
One of the things about registration is that when you want to register, you have to prove that you're a Ghanaian. You can prove that by producing a passport, a driving license, a national ID card, or an existing voter ID card. That is a voter ID card that you acquired under CI-12. That is before the biometric registration in 2012. And if you have none of those, then if 2 registered voters guarantee that you are a Ghanaian and you qualify, you may be registered. And our contention is that if you're going to conduct a limited registration exercise, and those people who use the NHIS card to register remain on the register and hold voter ID cards, then even though they are not qualified to be there, they can still guarantee the registration of other people. Now, having a voter ID card is no small thing. It means you're a Ghanaian. When you think about it, if somebody is not really a Ghanaian, is Malian or Burkina or whatever, their grandchild can insist they're Ghanaian because their grandfather had a voter ID card. Because in Ghana, if either of your parents or either of your grandparents is a Ghanaian, you're also a Ghanaian. So it has major implications for the country, both socially and economically, as well as in terms of complying with the Constitution. And so we felt that no, until this issue of the register is cleared up, and we know what the court says we should do about those who use the NHIS card to register, as well as even those who are deceased. With the Justice Crab Committee report says that almost 600,000 people would have died between 2012 and 2014, and that the implications for a credible vote election are quite dire. We're saying that until all of those issues are cleared up, and we know what direction the Supreme Court is asking us to go, we ought not to conduct an election or a limited registration exercise, because you're only going to compound the problem if those who are not qualified are still guaranteeing the qualification of others to register, and we would have a situation where the register continues to be bloated. And we were only asking for the injunction until the determination of this case. We're not saying that Abuako North will never have a by-election, and we're not saying that those who've reached the age of 18 or those who didn't have a chance to register cannot register, but that until this case is determined, it should be on hold. I'm sure you're aware that after the original case in 2014, they instructed us to write to the EC to inquire about what they intend to do with those people on the register who use the NHIS card to register, which the Supreme Court says is unconstitutional. If the Supreme Court says that the use of the NHIS card to register is unconstitutional, it means that the cards that were derived from that registration are also unconstitutional, the voter ID cards. This is a principle in law that you cannot put something on nothing and expect it to stand.
So that was lawyer for Abu Ramadan, Nana Asante too. Abu Ramadan himself will join us in the studio in a bit, but we can go on the line and speak to campaign manager of the MPP, Mr. Peter McMenu. As you may know, the MPP is the major opposition party that is leading the campaign for a review of the voters register. Mr. Peter McMenu, thanks for joining us on today's big story. This decision by Abu Ramadan to go to court is one you fully backed. The court has thrown out his application seeking to injunct the EC's processes.
Yep.
Disappointed?
Well, hello?
Mr. Peter McMenu.
Yeah.
You can hear me now. I was asking that whether you are disappointed by the latest decision by the Supreme Court to throw out that application for injunction in view of the fact that this is a move the MPP fully backed.
Well, sure, it's a disappointment, but nevertheless, I think we have to wait till the full discourse from the Supreme Court comes out. And that is their reason for that decision. But I think that the ruling also said that the stakeholders must sit down and negotiate for what the panel of judges recommended. That's the validation. So that's also a step in the right direction, because certainly something must be done about the current register before we use it for the upcoming election. Everybody admits that the register is bloated, is statistically inaccurate, it has legal and constitutional defects, and computer-wise, it's not sound. So the bases have been established all along, and they have all admitted, but the action has not been forthcoming from the Electoral Commission. That's where the game is. So I'm happy as well that the Supreme Court is saying, hey, you guys must sit down and do something on this bloated register before the election. So it's a step in the right direction.
I'm wondering whether you feel this will really change anything. We know that some months ago, the EC, after setting up this panel of experts to review the concerns of the political parties, organized a forum, they heard your concerns. The Supreme Court is asking you to go and then go back and engage with the EC once again. Will it change anything?
Well, I'm hoping that with the words from the Supreme Court and other personalities in the country, nobody knows. Time, they say, changes hearts. So maybe this is the time that the Electoral Commission will change heart. So I think that the voice from the Supreme Court to stakeholders and the Electoral Commission to negotiate, to sit down for a cleaned or a credible register could bring something positive for our election. Because you see, the voters register is the foundation for the election. And if we don't get the foundation right, the building you put on it certainly will not be right.
And I get a sense from your reaction that the MPP is ready to sit down and dialogue with the EC once again.
Why not?
Fair to say that.
Why not? Why not? We are a political party. We are a major stakeholder. Our memberships have always insisted that we should try and get the new register done. We ourselves have done various press conferences, press statements, and we took part in the panel discussions from the EC. So we are a very interested party. So we go with it. We will surely go with it.
And Mr. Peter McMahon, when the panel presented this report, one of the key issues that we had your party raise was about this independent auditor that has been contracted by the EC to review the register, to audit the register. Have you since contacted the EC on this matter? Have you had any official communication with the EC?
We have written officially to the EC demanding the terms of reference, the product that came out, that is the report from the auditor, and up to now we haven't had any response. These are some of the things, and as an electoral management body, there are certain key things, there are certain key values that you must uphold. Value of transparency, value of openness, value of credibility, value of professionalism. And that the EC, Electoral Management Body, is a public service assignment. So you must deal with the public. And we wrote a letter. Up till now, they haven't responded.
How long ago did you write this letter to them?
Oh, this about 2 months, 3 months ago. 3 months ago.
And this was seeking specific...
We were asking that the auditor, they are saying they contracted. We need the terms of reference and a copy of the report that the auditor came up with. And that's it. We have up to now not gotten any response. There
was an interesting occurrence in court today where after the lawyer for the Electoral Commission had put forward his arguments, the representatives of the Attorney General stood up and backed that argument, saying that they sided with the Electoral Commission's position on this matter concerning the need for the court not to grant the injunction. But one of the judges raised an interesting point that he expected the Attorney General's department, and for that matter, government, to take a neutral stance on this matter. I'm wondering what you make of this as well, that the AG's department took a position on this in court. Do you agree with the judge that this shouldn't have been the case?
But I think time and again, the issue of independence of the Electoral Commission and their reliance on the Attorney General for legal issues has been debated all along, that they need to have their own legal department that will attend to all legal issues of the Commission. Because, as I said earlier, values that an effective electoral management needs, one of them is independence. So if you are independent, why are you going to rely on the Attorney General, or for that matter, government, for advice on legal issues? I think it's about time. It's long overdue for the Electoral Commission to set up its own legal department that will give the Electoral Commission legal services. It's important so that it can assert its independence. Because if you go and rely on the Attorney General, everybody knows that the Attorney General is a member of the ruling party, and for that matter, the ruling government. How do you expect them to be generous to the people of Ghana? I don't expect so. They will normally toe the line of the government or for the ruling party.
Finally, Mr. Peter McMenu, when your party addressed the press conference to present your official position on the panel's recommendations, you stated that you'll be coming up with a plan B in a few months. When should we expect that plan B on this issue?
It's in the offing. I promise you that it's in the offing.
Soon?
Certainly,
2 weeks, 3 weeks time?
We are gauging the situation. We are gauging the situation and the manner and the behavior of the Electoral Commission. I mean, for example, today, these new I mentioned from the Supreme Court, we are watching. The Ghanaians are watching. And like I said, this is a public institution. They are supposed to be neutral, impartial, independent, accurate, professional. They should show professionalism in the work they do. So we expect that they will act appropriately.
All right, thank you very much. That was Peter McMahon, who is the 2016 campaign manager of the MPP. We can now go on the other line and speak to Mr. Paul Abrampa. He's with the Coalition of Domestic Election Observers, for his view on this development as well. Thanks for joining us, Mr. Abrampa. Were you surprised with this admonition coming from the Supreme Court itself to the Electoral Commission?
Well, good evening, my brother. Let me say a very good evening to our listeners, too. It's not different from some of the recommendations given after the Supreme Court's ruling in 2012. It's the same advice that the Supreme Court has been given to the Electoral Commission. And I should think it's based on the fact that the Electoral Commission is an independent body, and the Supreme Court, if not issue on the typical legal commitment that binds the Electoral Commission, all that the Supreme Court will do is to advise, aside Electoral Commission committing a serious legal blunder that use it to enjoin the Electoral Commission to go by the law. Aside that, all its issues will be advised. And I should also think that the Supreme Court, by this advice, trying to urge the Electoral Commission to act in a manner that will reduce the possibility of people always dragging the Electoral Commission to court. Yeah, that's stated. I should also say that, per the Constitution, the Electoral Commission is supposed to be independent, does not take commands from any other institution, with the exception of the fact that it breaches the law, the court can ask the Commission to go by the law. It also means that the Commission is there to act on behalf of the state, the good of the country. And that's why it's important that such advice given the Electoral Commission does it. Already, the Electoral Commission started on a good foot over the years by establishing the Inter-Party Advisory Committee to sort of build consensus on major decisions that it takes, even though the advice from the committee is not binding on the commission. I think it's sort of to tone down the tension on some of the major decisions that were taken in previous elections. So it's good the Electoral Commission takes advice from the Supreme Court, and we are not saying open so much for even trivial issues or operational issues within the commission that directors of the commission will come to the public. But in issues of such magnitude, like on voter register, issues bordering on policies, I think if it shares these ideas with the public to build consensus, it will reduce the number of cases that will go against, or the number of cases that will be brought against the commission.
Do you think this will really change anything? And again, the same question I put to Mr. Peter McMenu, that we've had the EC hold a forum some months ago, took the concerns and the views of the political parties on this. This will be the same thing. Will it change anything, you think?
Well, we have a new chair of the commission. We have a new direction of the commission. So some of these issues is trying to build people understanding of the direction of the commission since Charlotte took over. So we're still waiting, we're still monitoring, we're still analyzing issues that come about. One, the commission took the decision to take recommendations from the public, including media and civil society, of which my organization, CDD, and the Coalition for Domestic Observers made input. After the consensus building, leading to the decision that it cannot compile entirely new voter register, we were expecting that a brief background as to why and how the commission reached that decision will be given, so that it clears the air and puts people's anxiety and tension at bay, so that people will not like to go to court again to seek more clarification on the issue. But if you come out and say the commission cannot compile entirely new voter register, but it's going to do auditing, then you go ahead to give us the modality. What form is the auditing going to take? In a revision, what form the revision is going to take? Let's all know, start working on it, so that people who do not even understand the electoral processes, some of these things are new to us because we've not done thorough audit for our register before. We've not done thorough revision. We do revision. You just go to the polling stations, do limited registration, check, do exhibition, check and photo, of which people do not even go. But as to the issues around credibility of voter register, that leads to a recommendation of doing a thorough revision. It has so many modalities that we can adopt. So we're expecting the commission to come up and clear the air. That's why people are still not clear as to whether the commission, by saying that it will do auditing, has accepted some of the recommendations or not. So we expect the commission to come out. Yes, we said we will do entirely new voter register. Our decision was from the fact that maybe the auditing that we did, based on the allegations by the NPP and other groups, this is what we found. Yes, there are the voter rule is bloated, but it's not by strength. So you give us a reason why you're saying the NDC or the MPC's allegation does not carry weight. But even that, we all agree that the voter rule is bloated. And these are the modalities we are going to use to clear it, so that people will be at bay. But that did not happen.
That'll be the way to go for the Electoral Commission, you think. But finally, I want to pick your thoughts also. The judges, the Supreme Court judges today asked that the EC should be willing to make some compromises. What sort of compromises do you think in this regard they should make?
You and I are aware that the judges or the Supreme Court's verdict, the full verdict, as they said, will come out when the substantive case is heard. So as you and I sit here, we don't know what kind of compromises that will be, because we know a party or a compilation of a new, entirely new voter register. The NDC, for instance, has taken the decision that it will not go through to that, and they think the existing voter register is good, just go through the editing. So maybe what is the middle way? What is the compromise? What is the Supreme Court advising? Maybe when the final verdict comes out, after the substantive case is dead, then we could be clear. As of now, we don't have the full part of the case and the direction of the compromises that the Supreme Court is talking about. So we can't predict that.
Very well, thank you so much. That's Paul Abrampa. He's with the Coalition of Domestic Election Observers. Thankfully, we've been joined in the studio now by Mr. Abu Ramadan, former National Youth Organizer of the PNC, the plaintiff in this case. Thanks for joining me on today's big story. Speaking to your lawyer, I did not get the sense that you're disappointed with the court's decision today. Why?
Absolutely not. Absolutely. Let me say a very good evening to your viewers. We're excited by the ruling of the court because we would want to say it didn't come to us as a shock because as a team or as the legal team advised, the ruling could have gone anyway. And we looked at all the various possibilities of the ruling in terms of how we expect it to go, if it goes, what the impact and its meaning to the substantive matter before the court. And this current ruling and the advice by the court itself. And I'm happy you are sitting in court throughout the entire process. And the advice from the court clearly puts our case on the proper footing for takeoff.
So?
And we are just... No,
it was thrown out. I mean, two applications here.
Yes, application for an... we didn't say an interlocutory injunction, not a permanent injunction against the Electoral Commission, a temporary one. To say that don't hold the exercise until we finish with the court hearing. But in the wisdom of the court feels we can still go ahead. But notwithstanding that, whatever decision the court will take would have no bearing as to the current exercise that will be undertaken. And for that matter, we are more excited because the court, in our second pleading before the court in a substantive matter, we have asked the court that, listen, if we can't compile a new register, we want us to have a validation process to clean the voters register. And the court sought to agree with us that the validation process is the way to go. And for that matter, the commission must be ready to make compromises, to sit down with us and look at how, if it is a validation, what is it we're doing? And we're excited by that.
And another point that the court made was that the EC should be willing to meet with stakeholders like yourself who've raised concerns with the credibility of the voters register. That must be welcoming.
Our lawyers are writing to them tomorrow. They're writing to the Electoral Commission tomorrow to ask for a date of our meeting.
Oh, interesting.
Because we want to show commitment and faith to the process. Just as the judges said, we have come now with a lighter hand than we did the first time in the first suit that was filed before the court. So the Electoral Commission should also be ready to meet us.
They're writing to the EC tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
To set a date.
Tomorrow, and we are going to give them options. We are going to give them about 3-4 days options, different dates that we think is good enough for us to meet, to discuss issues, so that we don't waste our time in the court. We can just go to court and tell the court, listen, after dialogue amongst ourselves, we agree, and stakeholders have also agreed with us on the position. This is the roadmap we have put together, and we think the court should give us a blessing so we can
what form do you expect this dialogue to take? That you write officially with your concerns and present to the EC, or you sit together
yes,
at the table?
The concerns have already been put on paper. That's what is before the Supreme Court, and they've been served a copy of it. Why would I come back and waste my time in writing another petition or another issue on paper again? The concerns are already with them. They know what we are talking about. All we want is, let's find the middle line. As the judges said, the way to peace in an election is a credible register. If the way to peace in an election is a credible register, how do we get the register credible? The court agrees that the register itself is not credible. So on the basis of that, how do we correct it? If the Electoral Commission says there's nothing wrong with it, the registered people who are voting currently, who will be voting in Bakwa, who voted in Talensi, who voted in the last by-election, those who are not supposed to have the right to cast their ballot, who voted, if now we are going to the 2016 election, how do we get their names off the register?
But should be told,
or how do we give them the option to come and correct the error in their registration?
Should be told, Mr. Abu Ramadan, the EC has said, and they announced that when the panel presented its recommendations, that they've contracted an independent auditor.
What is the auditor doing? What is the auditor looking out for? When the EC says, in its own admission, that there is no form of identifying who used the health insurance card in registering. There's no form of identifying who used the passport to register. There's no form of identifying who used the driver's license to register. So what sort of auditing would the person be doing? What would the person be looking out for? Tell me, what would that independent auditor be looking out for?
You talk about names of minors on the register. You talk about...
That is not the only... The big issue is the majority of people who use health insurance in registering. And this is an admission by the Attorney General, endorsed by the Electoral Commission legal team. So we are saying that if we have such a group on the register, even if you contract Madam Charlotte Osei to clean the register herself, what is she looking? What are the terms of reference? What is she looking out for? On what basis will she be looking for somebody? Is it because you are called Abu Ramadan? So okay, because it's Abu Ramadan, he's likely to have used the health insurance, so we'll take his name off. Because the commission says there's no means of determining if criteria you use the health insurance or you use the driver's license. If I ask you right now what form of identification, but I'm sure you can't even remember.
The other point is understood, but finally, at least one of the judges took issue with the AG's position on this matter, taking a firm stance, backing the EC's position, backing the EC lawyer's position, Tadio, sorry. And I'm wondering whether you have issues with that as well.
Clearly, you see, that is why this feeds into the call by some section that we need to decouple the Attorney General's Department from the Ministry of Justice. By decoupling it, and you remember the judge who raised the issue of the fact that this is a matter of a constitutionality that nothing can be done about. But if you're able, through the same constitutionality, separate these two institutions with powers that are different, that don't intertwine itself, I think we'll see a more independent Attorney General's Department than we'll see the Justice Ministry. So it will help. That is the only solution. If not, because even in the election petition hearing, all we saw was the Attorney General come in and say, oh, in any case, the Attorney General was in court, being prosecuted. She came to just support the Electoral Commission in the case.
Very well. Thank you very much. That was Abu Ramadan. He's plaintiff in the case seeking to injunct the processes leading to the 2016 election because he has clear issues with the voters register, questioning the credibility of the country's electoral data. That'll be it for today's big story. My name is Kwachi Afreniama.
Do you know why Alomo Bitters is renowned as the spirit of Africa? That's because it's made of friendship.